Before the houses gave it a number on their charts, before the terraforming failed and the chemical storms ate the sky, this world had a name: Solabri Prime, the breadbasket of a civilization that no longer exists, whose bloodline was erased from every record the victors controlled. The houses called what they did justice. History called it the War of Nine Suns. The Rust remembers differently. Serethi Voss did not know the name of the world she was born on. She knew the amber light of the Warren corridors, the taste of recycled air, the weight of a salvage pack on shoulders that had never known anything lighter. She was 24 years old, and she had never seen a sky that was not orange with particulate. She had never needed to. The junction market was the only commerce dust had left. Scavengers spreading their finds on corroded metal blankets, water traders operating from sealed carts. The whole transaction conducted with the practiced calm of people who have no alternative. Serethi moved through it the way she moved through everything, efficiently without looking up, already calculating what the day's salvage run might yield against what she owed for air filtration by the week's end. 3 levels below the surface, a dome collapse 2 weeks prior had cracked open a section of subsurface progenitor architecture like a geode. The walls were dark, iridescent material, old enough that the script etched into them had faded to near invisibility, ancient and indifferent, a space that had never been built for human occupation and did not acknowledge that humans were in it. Serethi had been in ruins like this before. She knew how to move through them without touching the wrong things. It was half buried under a fall of metallite rubble, a cylinder the length of her forearm, its surface etched with script she could not read, dark and cold and apparently inert. She had seen similar pieces sell for 3 water rations at the junction market. She pried it free with both hands, her salvage tool scraping against the ruined floor, the debris shifting around it as if reluctant to release what it had been holding. Her left hand, the one scarred by the chemical burn, closed around the cylinder's surface. The script ignited. Not fire, not heat. Light, cold and blue-white, the color of something that had been waiting in the dark for a very specific key. The cylinder vibrated against her palm with a frequency she felt in her teeth, in the base of her skull, in the marrow of her forearm where the old burn scar had never fully healed. She tried to drop it. Her hand would not open. For 11 seconds, the artifact sang. She did not know, in those 11 seconds, what it was doing. She did not know that the cylinder was a progenitor broadcast node, a piece of a galaxy-wide sensor network dormant for 8 centuries, waiting for a bloodline the houses believed they had destroyed. She did not know that her touch had given it exactly what it needed: a genetic key, a Solabri signature, the proof that the line had survived. She did not know that in those 11 seconds, her blood was being transmitted across every progenitor relay still active in the galaxy, and there were more of them than anyone knew. She knew that something had gone wrong. That was enough to make her run. She dropped the cylinder when it released her. It hit the ruin floor and went dark, its purpose complete. And she ran back through the collapsed corridor, her salvage pack swinging, her boots slipping on the corroded surface, the amber emergency strips flickering above her as if the ruin itself was disturbed. She did not stop until she reached the junction market, 3 levels up, where the ordinary noise of dust survival washed over her like cold water. At the base of her skull, she could not see it, but she could feel it, a warmth that had not been there before, a faint luminous pressure spreading downward along the back of her neck, as if something had been waiting inside her for the right key, and the artifact had turned it. The binding had begun, whether she had chosen it or not. She pressed her hand to the back of her neck in the flickering corridor and felt only skin. But the warmth did not stop. The relay singer was waiting. Serethi had known her all her life, a gaunt woman in her late 60s with deep brown skin drawn tight over sharp bones, mineral paste residue silvering her lips, wearing Ash Singer layered robes in faded ochre with 3 data chip necklaces clicking at her chest. She was sitting at the edge of the junction market on an overturned salvage crate, her dark eyes alert, her posture bent from years in low-ceilinged warrens. She was looking at Serethi with an expression Serethi had never seen on her face before. Fear. The relay singer took Serethi by the arm, the scarred arm, the left one, and pulled her into a side corridor away from the market noise. She spoke in a low voice, mineral paste resonance carrying the words even at a whisper. She said Maren had told her this day would come. She said she had been monitoring the Warren's sensor array every morning for 11 years. And then she said the word that Maren had whispered on her deathbed. The word Serethi had carried like a stone in her chest for 3 years without understanding its weight. Solabri. Serethi stood in the side corridor and felt the shape of her life rearrange itself around a fact that had always been true. She thought of Maren's hands, weathered brown, mineral paste in the creases, pressing something small and cold into her palm the night she died. She thought of the name Maren had whispered and how she had assumed it was delirium. She thought of the artifact's light and how it had not burned her, and how her hand had not opened until it was finished. The artifact had not malfunctioned. It had recognized her. On Ethan Prime, in the high oval chamber of the throne spire, where the capital city radiated outward below like a map of everything the regent was responsible for, Empress Regent Lysara Ethonis stood at the head of her conference table and read the intelligence brief her signals officer had placed in her hands 40 seconds after the broadcast reached the spire's relay array. She read it once. She set it down. She looked at the darkened patch near her left shoulder, a system she had lost 2 months ago, and she said quietly to the room, "Find me a ship that can reach the outer rim in 30 hours." In the deep indigo dark of a faith monitoring station, Archon Valen Drace's ink-stained fingers went still for the first time in years. The broadcast had arrived through the gold-circuited thread woven into his robes, the functional Progenitor interface that allowed him limited contact with minor artifacts. He felt it as a vibration in the hems, a warmth in the circuits, a sudden certainty that the thing he had spent 30 years preparing for had just announced itself. His hollow-cheeked face showed nothing. His fingers began moving again, faster than before. In the Silent Choir's encrypted communications hub, Vex Karen looked up from her terminal. The signal had arrived on a frequency her cipher system had flagged as dead channel. No traffic in over 800 years. She rolled her sleeves precisely twice. She read the decoded burst. She read it again. Then she opened 2 channels simultaneously, one to a buyer she had been cultivating for 3 years, and one to a frequency she had not used since she and Kale Thyros had last been in the same room. In the cramped cockpit of a battered civilian cargo shuttle between systems, Kale Thyros was watching the jury-rigged terminal on his co-pilot's console when the signal arrived. His prosthetic left hand, matte black, joint mechanisms exposed, rested on the controls. He lifted the terminal's output feed and held it in the shuttle's dim instrument light. The surgical scar running from his right temple to behind his ear caught the green glow of the panels. He read what Vex had sent him. He set the feed down. He pulled up his navigation display and drew a vector toward the outer rim. Back in the side corridor off the junction market, the relay singer was still talking. She was saying, "The signal will have reached every active Progenitor relay in the network." She was saying, "There are factions that have been hunting this bloodline for a century." She was saying, "You have hours, not days." She said it the way Maren had said everything that mattered, not as a warning, but as a fact that had already happened, and that Serethi was simply the last to receive. Serethi asked her why. Why she had watched the sensor array every morning for 11 years. Why she had kept Maren's secret when Maren was gone, and the secret had no one left to protect. The relay singer picked up one of the data chips from her necklace, not removing it, just holding it between her fingers, and she said, because Maren memorized 37 civilizations so that something of them would survive. She said, "You are not a civilization, you are one person, but you are the last of something, and the last of something is worth more than all the water on this world." Serethi went back to her quarters, a narrow alcove off the market corridor, a sleeping mat, a locked box of salvage components, Maren's necklace of corroded data chips hanging from a hook on the wall. She stood in the doorway for a moment, looking at everything she had accumulated in 24 years on a dying world. Then she took the necklace. She took the locked box. She took nothing else. There was nothing else worth taking. The Warrens' failing sensor array showed the first orbital contact 40 minutes later. The relay singer was monitoring it. She sent the alert to Serethi's wristcom, a salvaged unit with a cracked display that still received text. And the message said only, "They are already here. Go now." Serethi moved through the Warren at a pace that was not quite running. Running drew attention, and attention on dust was a currency she could not spend. She moved through the amber-lit corridors, past the junction market, past the ventilation junctions where the air tasted of recycled effort, past the places she had walked every day of her life without knowing what she was walking through. The Warren that had been her entire world was now a corridor to something else. At Dome Cluster 7, the salvage hauler sat on a corroded landing pad under a sky the colour of old rust. The pilot, a broad-shouldered woman who asked no questions and had been paid in water rations she would not need to explain, had the loading ramp down. The chemical storm on the horizon was 3 hours out. The orbital contact on the Warren sensor array was closer than that. Serethi walked up the ramp. She did not look back at the dome cluster, or the corroded surface, or the rust-orange sky she had looked at every day of her life through cracked polycarbonate. She did not look back because looking back was a luxury for people who had somewhere to return to, and she understood now, with the certainty of someone who has just had the ground renamed beneath their feet, that she did not. The ramp closed. The hauler's engines cycled. Below, the rust-orange surface of dust fell away, the dome clusters shrinking to blisters, the chemical storm wall rolling across the horizon, the geometric ghost of a progenitor glyph 3 kilometers across visible in the cracking pattern of the metalite desert, legible only from above, only to someone who knew what they were looking at. The world remembered what it was. It had always known. And the galaxy, which had been looking for her for a very long time, turned its full attention toward the outer rim. On Ethan Prime, a ship was being prepared. In the indigo dark of a faith station, ink-stained fingers drafted orders that had been 30 years in the waiting. In the silent choir's hub, 2 channels stayed open, their green lights blinking in asymmetric patience. And in the cramped cockpit of a cargo shuttle, a prosthetic hand held a navigation course steady toward a rust-orange world that had just stopped being anonymous. In the hauler's dim cabin, Serethi sat with Maren's necklace in her hands, turning the corroded data chips one by one. Each chip was a civilization Maren had memorized so that something of it would survive. She did not know yet what was on them. She did not know yet what she was. But the warmth at the base of her skull had not faded, and the faint luminous veins along her neck caught the amber emergency lighting of the cabin in a way that her pale grey eyes, reflective, always catching light unnaturally, had always done, as if she had been built to be seen. The dust rose and settled as it always had. The chemical storm consumed the dome clusters of Dome Cluster 7 within the hour, scouring the landing pad clean of any trace that a ship had been there. Below, in the Warren, the relay singer sat at the sensor array and watched the orbital contacts multiply, 2, then 4, then 7, and she did not move. She had done what Marin asked. She had kept the last of something alive long enough for it to become something else. That was all an ash singer could do. It had always been enough.